Hey, look at us.
Hey, here we are.
Real Estate for Real. I am Eric Pettigo, and I'm being joined today by a very special guest. New guy here at the office. Just thought maybe this would be a good opportunity for people to get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
You're a bit of a recluse.
I kind of hide and stay out of the limelight if I can.
Mike Buscher joining me today. Mike, thanks so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
No, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. And so I thought that the only logical place to start with you and me here is to maybe talk about some of the specifics of our competing brokerages, co-ops that they offer.
It's been nice to talk to you. And this will be his last podcast.
This will be it. I'm getting shut down. Yeah, no, obviously not. Obviously we won't do that. But I've been planning that joke for a few days. And it landed.
Yes,
it landed, I see.
Probably since the first podcast.
Yeah. So I will say this. You have been, and not just me, I'm sure so many people, you're so instrumental in my career. It was after you were the last person I talked to, because I talked to a few other brokerages after I got licensed. You were the last person I talked to. And there was no doubt in my mind after that conversation. I'm coming to the real estate group. So thank you.
Absolutely.
For that. And I know it's not just me. I know there's a lot of others, and I'm sure you don't want just compliments heaped on you for an hour here, but I'll try to not. But it was there was something about that first time I met you. I just liked the vibe. I liked it. I was like, okay, yeah, I can fit in here. If this is my managing broker and this is the place I'm working, I can do this.
You know, you had Julie on a little while back, and
I did.
I was raised by Julie Davis in the real estate business, so a lot of the skills that I have, I learned from her, whether it was her directly teaching me or me watching her. And it's interesting because the podcasts that I've listened to, most of the agents talk about the relationships they have with their clients, and it's more than just buying and selling a house. It's the same thing on the management end of it. It's the relationship with the people that matter. Interviewing for a real estate job, interviewing someone for a real estate job is the hardest thing out there because there is no model.
No.
You could be good, you could be bad. There is no, a lot of it depends on how hard you want to work and what you do and all those kind of things. And everybody can do it if they want to. So it's not like there's a real science that goes, man, this guy's going to be really good and this person's not going to be that good. So if you
come in with zero resume.
Correct.
Right. I had never done anything like this before. Do you remember our first meeting?
I do.
November 2013?
Yeah, because you and Coker came in about the same time.
We did.
Back then, there were more people coming in the business. We had more opportunities to sit and have those conversations. But
first impressions, do you remember?
Again, when you kind of sit back and take a look, first off, you had the personality. You had we can teach you the real estate business.
Right.
I can't teach you how to go talk to people and if you're willing to do that and stuff like that. The name recognition was there from the Chatham area, all that kind of stuff. So you had all the boxes checked. So it's not a hard.
I do remember one of the things you told me, and it resonated, and you were 100% correct, because you said name recognition, and I brought it up the last time I did with Keki. I talked about this too. My family owns a business in town since the 60s, and it's synonymous, and my whole life it's been, the sod people. Right. That's you, the sod people. And you said that's going to be a really tough obstacle for you to overcome is changing people's perception of your name being, the sod and landscape people to, Pettigo, like real estate. Mm-hmm. You were so right. That was a tough thing to do. I'll tell you, my dad, who still runs the sod business, somebody called him just to, come give a bid, and he showed up and he's measuring the yard, and they said, Pettigo, huh? So like the real estate guy.
Really?
And I was like, victory.
That's impressive.
Yeah, right?
And I'm sure your father appreciated that.
He did. He really did. Yeah. No, I have no bigger supporter than my dad for me bailing on the family business and doing something else He's been in my corner the whole way. So,
well, I worked for Pepsi for a number of years.
Okay.
I was a route driver. And I was a couple of years in the real estate business, selling real estate and stuff. And I'd run into somebody and they're like, man, you look familiar. And it was 2 years in. I'm like, Pepsi, oh, yeah, you were the Pepsi guy. So it takes a while to make that transition. And that's why.
So, I ask everybody, and I know you've listened to a few. So can you tell the story of how you landed in real estate?
Sure. I think I was 21, and I was ready to buy. I wanted to buy a house.
Okay.
But I didn't know anything about it. So I went and took the real estate class. Ron Ladley was an instructor, and I took it out at the old Victoria Falls. And I just went to learn about real estate. Well, it doesn't really teach you how to buy a house. I mean, all the rules and stuff. So I took the class. I went through that. I never did take the test. I had no intention of ever getting in the real estate business. And then I went and bought a house, and then I got some rental stuff. And I worked at Pepsi for years on the route. And then I had my son, and I was a single father. And when he started kindergarten, route life doesn't work.
No.
I had to find something a little more flexible. And so I was sitting actually with my mom one day over at her house, and I said, I got to do something. I don't know what. And she goes, what about real estate? She goes, you've always liked that. And I thought, you know what? So I had to go back and take the class again, and I went back to Ron, and he used to teach classes on Tuesday night, and then on Saturdays he would do double sessions.
So you didn't do the online thing?
We watched videotapes back in the day. But I negotiated with him and said, hey, since I've done it once, will you let me do Tuesday and Saturdays? So I got done in about 3 weeks. And
okay.
But I was looking for the flexibility to be able to take care of Anthony and be available and stuff like that. And that's what led me to it. I always liked the real estate. I wanted to buy one. I had a couple rental properties by then. But to get in the business, I never thought about it until I needed the flexibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so you go, you do your Tuesdays and Thursdays, you knock it out in a few weeks, and what happens next?
Again, your story, I take the test, and you stay in there. It was a different H&R Block back then. But I walked out, and I'm like, almost identical to what you say.
Really?
Yeah.
Glad it wasn't just me.
No, because
I was like, what is this test? This isn't like anything
I just want to know when I could schedule the next one. And the gal looked up the exact same thing. She goes, you passed. And I go, no, I'm Buscher. You might want to check that. And, then we were off and running. So I went and interviewed a couple of places. And I'll never forget this. Both places were great. I talked to a large real estate company. And then I ended up going to Julie Davis because I had an agent there that I bought my house from. So
okay.
I went and interviewed there. And the difference... And this was almost 35 years
Julie
ago.
have her own brokerage then?
Yes.
Okay.
Julie Davis Realtors over on Clock Tower. And the first one that I went to, loved it. It was great. But the guy that I interviewed with, who I have a ton of respect for, was in the real estate business for a long time. He said to me, Mike, if you pass your test, come back and talk to us. I said, okay. And then I went and talked to Kathy LaSalle at Julie's office. And Kathy said to me, when do you pass your test? And I thought, you know what?
What a difference.
And just that word... And I ended up going with Julie at that time, and I was there with her till she merged her company. So,
okay. So you were about how old?
29.
29. And then that was kind of young to get into the business, wasn't it?
It was kind of young at that point in time. And back then there was a little more of you almost had to prove yourself, especially to some of the more seasoned agents. And some of them wouldn't even talk to you until you were there for 6 months because the people come and go.
Yeah.
And so you kind of had to prove yourself in that. And again, that's where the family became important to me because I remember, Julie said after my first year, and I had a pretty decent year for the time. And she said, Mike, at some point you got to sell something to somebody other than family. I thought, Julie, I thought that. So, but that base helped me immensely because the Pepsi, I knew a bunch of people and got a pretty large family and stuff like that. So it got me started.
Yeah, no, and that's helpful. I don't know that, it's obviously the business has changed a lot, but I still feel like even now, newer agents getting in and getting started, it does kind of take a while to earn the respect of the more seasoned agents because that turnover rate is still... it's still crazy high. Is it still? I've always heard and thought that it was, 8 out of 10 are gone within 2 years.
Correct.
Is that about right?
Yeah. Historically, the national average is 50% are out after the first year, and 80% are out by the second year. By the end of the second year.
Oof.
You lived it. It's not what people think it is.
No.
Again, it looks fun and it's entertaining. And when you're working with an agent as a buyer or seller, you see the side that you like, but you don't see all the rest of it. And it's the business development side of it that's hard.
Yeah.
Because you just have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And some people can do it, and some people it's not for them.
And there's a certain amount of, I don't know what it is, but somebody might have all the tools and all the connections and everything's, but for whatever reason, the phone doesn't ring. Mm-hmm. It's almost like there's a certain amount of luck to it too. I don't know, where one of your clients decides to interject when somebody they hear is talking about buying a house, and they just happen to say, "Hey, I've got a good realtor if you don't have one," instead of maybe biting their tongue. It's like that kind of stuff where it just feels like so much, like there's so much, I don't want to say luck that goes into it, but a little bit.
There is, and I think you have to define what luck is.
Yeah.
You put yourself in a position to be lucky. If you're out knocking on doors and talking to people and going to events and doing the right things, you get luckier than somebody that doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it's the manna from heaven that drops down every once in a while, especially when you're looking and thinking, is there never going to be another deal? And then your phone rings, and then this happens, and that leads to a buy and a sell and stuff like that, and it just recharges you. But if you look back, all that stuff was done because you did all the things to get to that point.
I remember, so my first year, because I didn't close on anything for like half a year, but I'm still paying my dues and stuff. Mm-hmm. Money's going out, but it's not coming in. I went around and I was knocking on every for sale by owner that I went and knocked on their door. Mm-hmm. And, I got 0 of those listings.
Correct.
Absolutely none.
And it's no fun.
No, it's not. Especially as a brand new agent, when you don't really know what you're doing, and then you're going and trying to convince a stranger who doesn't want to use an agent in the first place to hire you. But I feel like it got me more comfortable just talking to strangers, which is a big part of what we have to do.
About real estate.
Yeah, about real estate. I remember one specifically, it was in Piper, and it was like this, it's an outlier of a house. There's a bunch of nice houses, but this is like $1 million house in Piper. It's just like a palace. And this lady was trying to sell it by owner. Mm-hmm. I went up there in my minivan and rang the doorbell, and I couldn't have been dismissed so quick. That was a record timing dismissed, get off my porch. So, but I did it.
Yep. And I can give you examples over the years because I get to see a lot of that where part of it was just you knock on the right door at the right time.
Yeah.
Somebody just had a showing that was canceled and they're tired of this, and it's happened, and agents have come to talk to me and they said, I knocked on the door. We had I can't remember her name, young gal, and she was a good agent, but she was really kind of shy and quiet, and she didn't last very long. But she's knocking on the door, and this lady opened the door, and she goes, yeah, I need to list it now. And she listed a $350,000 house because she was on the porch at the exact time.
Right place, right time.
This gal wanted to do it.
Luck.
And it is, but she was knocking on the door.
Yeah, but she took that initiative.
Correct.
Right? So
correct.
Creating your own luck a little bit too. You said you forgot her name, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. How hard is it for you? Because fast forward, and I want to get back into like kind of what got you here now. But here you are now. The real estate group has how many agents?
250 right now.
And that is between all of our offices.
Locations, yes.
And so, as a managing broker, how hard is it for you to keep track of that entire roster?
It gets harder every day. First, I get older every day. Second, the way that the business develops now, especially with the teams,
yes,
there's people that come to work and the team hires them, so to speak. We still have to go through the process of being approved in that. And with Mike Aldenettle here now, he's the managing broker of the Springfield branch, which is the biggest. I'm in the other markets a little bit more. So it's harder and harder for me to go, there's people that walk by, I'm like, do they work?
Who is that?
Yeah. And that's Mike's responsibility here. I know everybody in the other markets, but it gets more and more challenging because the teams are a little more isolated than they used to be, and that, I don't mean that as a bad thing, but they're self-contained.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people I don't interact with that often until there's a big problem.
Are you surprised by our growth here? I mean, did you see this like as a possibility when you came into the real estate group? However, you came into the real estate group, did you see like, hey, this is going to be like a big thing here?
I never envisioned we would be as big as we are. It was a good thing. And when I came to the real estate group, I was at Aspen Real Estate with Rod Ageezy, and we had about 50 or 60 agents. I'd been there about 2 years.
Okay.
We started talking. Rod actually started talking to the real estate group because they weren't growing as fast as they wanted. They had a space in the building. We had extra, and anyway, it came together. And when we came over, it was a very interesting mix. Aspen was a very young company with a bunch of young people, a little more renegade. Real estate group was a little more structured and quote unquote professional.
Ooh, sounds like I would have been an Aspen guy back then.
Aspen had a whole lot of different rituals than the real estate group. And when we put them together, the professionalism of the Aspen agents, and I don't mean this negatively, but it rose because they got to hang out with people that did this. But it also kind of opened some doors and loosened some ties over here to people. Because I remember Gerald Davis said to me one time after he was walking through the bullpen area, and the young agents were in there, Cody and Crystal, and I'm in there, and he said, I kind of remember when this was fun, because it was fun, and it mixed really well together, and we started growing. The structure that we have here, the way the corporation's structured and everything else, the growth is natural because people have opportunities to do more than just sell a couple houses. What the structure we have here, and again, without getting into specifics,
sure,
but
after meeting you and really liking how that went, and just kind of liking, everything that I saw about the real estate group, and like Coker said, they had more signs than everybody. For her, it was so easy to pick. She goes, well, they had all the signs, so why wouldn't I go there? Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But when I went home and crunched numbers with my wife, the opportunity for me to keep the most from what I sold was here.
Right.
It's a very agent-friendly place to work here. And it's grown quite a bit since I've came on board, but that hasn't changed.
No.
And
I don't think it will.
Why would it? I mean, we seem to have a pretty good thing going.
Well, real estate companies used to be a lot more traditional. There were different splits, much more generous to the company, but the company also paid for ads and signs and all kinds of things. So they were built, and they were all doing it. They take more revenue from the agents, and then they spend it the way that they want to help build the company.
Sure.
And with the help of the agents, or the intent of helping the agents. And here, it's different because you run your business different than anybody else. And we don't have a reason to dictate how you do that because you know better than anybody. So the philosophy is, if you're a buyer's agent predominantly, why would you be helping pay for signs and ads and stuff? And we don't do ads anymore. But so we said, look, you be a business, and I've said this to everybody that came in. I know I said it to you. We treat you like a business person. I want you to understand the business. I want you to run your own business and do it very well. And I can't tell you how to do that. You know how to do it. So let us give you as much of the revenue as you can and do it the way you want.
And that's exactly what I needed, because I've got this weird confidence about me where I'm like, I can do this. I can do it. And I didn't know. I didn't know how to do it, right, but I thought that I could. And so I kind of bet on myself to, I'll handle all the overhead. This company's going to let me do whatever I want to build my own business. And so anyhow, it was the growth, I guess, doesn't surprise me at all because I know how this place is run, and it's awesome. And after listening to a bunch of these, for one, I have not had an agent on that's not been a real estate group agent. Now, I've tried.
Good.
But I haven't had anybody agree to come on.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these have sounded halfway like real estate group commercials where, come work here. It's a great place to work. Yeah. But it just is. And I think it says a lot that all of the agents that I've had come on here everybody just talks about how great it is to work at this company. And sorry for the compliment, but you're such a big part of that, man. I mean, you've been instrumental in how this place is run and how it's grown. And so, I mean, there's got to be a little pat yourself on the back. You've done a great job here.
I've been lucky my entire career. First off, I started with Julie. The management team she had, I kind of think my whole management career is kind of like, bowling with the bumper guards, because I had Julie and I had Kathy and I had Cindy Nagel, and then when
Cindy was awesome,
she merged with Coldwell Banker. Then I've got these folks in Champaign that helped me, and Julie was still there. So I never had to go make decisions by myself. I always had. And then we come to the real estate group, and I've got Jay Clark and Rick Hansel. I mean, all these Cindy Cruz people that I'm like, hey, what do you think of this and what do you think of that? So it's been more by committee.
Yeah.
I get to deliver the message, so I get some credit sometime. Most of the time, it's not due to me. The company runs well because the way the board is structured, and the decisions are made for this company by people that make their living selling real estate. A lot of companies, it's the CEOs or somebody that isn't on the streets. And in all the years I've been here, and I've said this many times, I haven't always agreed with every decision the board's made.
Sure.
And sometimes we have some lively discussions in there, but I can't find one that was the wrong decision, which means I was on the wrong side. I didn't agree with it. I didn't think it was right. And when you walk out of those meetings, everybody's on the same page. And it turned out to be right because it gets vetted by the people sitting around there that, again, someday you'll be on that board. And when you make this decision...
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, you will.
I got to show houses.
But when you walk out, you got to live by the rules you made. So you really, really consider... And that's why we don't change things very often. There's not policies that change this stuff very often because it just doesn't affect everything.
Yeah, you nailed that deflection, buddy. Nice job.
Thank you.
Yep. So, all right.
I've been in sales for quite a while.
You don't say. So, all right. Let's rewind then. So you start with Julie Davis, and that's kind of where you get going. How do we end up here? I know it's a long story, and you can give the Cliff Notes version if you want, but how do we end up, how do you end up managing broker of the real estate group?
I will make this as quick as I can. The first...
I mean, we've got 40 minutes or so you're good.
After about a year with Julie, and Julie had an unbelievable training program. And we had 3 hours every week of, 10 weeks and all this kind of stuff. So I asked her one day, is there a chance I could do some of that training? Because I had coached a little bit. I loved helping people and stuff.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, Mike, we'll give you a session if you want, but you got to go back through the training program. And I'm like, okay. Best thing I ever did. Because after, when you do that as a brand new agent, you get part of it. When you do it about a year later, it's a whole different. So then she let me start doing some training. And that I had one session, and then it kind of grew to two and stuff. So then I became the guy in the office that helped the new agents. And I really liked that.
Yes.
So I was selling for about 3 years. And then her and I had some conversation. There was a spot on the management team, and she said, do you want to do this? And we went back and forth and back and forth. And I ended up taking that job. So then I was still selling a little bit, but managing. And I did that the whole time I was with Julie. After 10 years, she merged with Coldwell Banker here in town, and then Coldwell Banker Devonshire from Champaign kind of bought the whole thing. So then I got to manage the Coldwell Banker office in Springfield.
Ah, okay. And I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was after about 6 months, because the merger between Coldwell Banker and them, they had somebody from Champaign making sure everything was smooth, and then I got to take over. And I did that for about 7 years. And I loved it. It was fun. It was great. I was a little nervous just kind of seeing where Coldwell Banker, the corporate office in Champaign, just wasn't going, in my opinion, the right direction. And I was right, because they eventually sold and closed. So I started looking around, and I talked to Rada Jeezy, who had just started this Aspen company, and he had a handful of agents. And so I went over there as the managing broker, and that kind of grew fairly quickly. But as that independent, and it was a challenge. And that's when we started talking with the real estate group.
And so who was at the real estate group at that point?
The most instrumental...
I mean, not everybody, not the whole roster, obviously, but...
Cindy Cruz was the president.
Okay.
Jeff Stell...
I've heard of her.
Jay Clark and those guys were talking back and forth. And Daryl Davis was involved with the conversations, and we kind of got to a stalemate. And I'll never forget this. I tell Cindy Cruz this all the time. I'm sitting at my desk because we were almost there, and then it fell apart. And you got some stubborn people, Rod being one, and somebody on the other side. And I was sitting at my desk, and my phone rang, and it was Cindy Cruz's name. And I picked it up, and I said, and I knew Cindy, but not near as well as I do now. And I said, "Hey, Cindy," and she said to me, "We cannot let this fall apart, Mike. It's too big of a deal." And I said, "Okay." So her and I kind of talked a little bit. We got everything back going on track, and then we did the merger,
Wow.
acquisition, whatever. And so then we came over to this building and came in, and Rod was actually the CEO again for about 6 or 8 months, and then he's like, "I don't want to do this." So then I stepped in.
Then
and
you
became
jumped
manager.
in.
Yeah.
Okay, so about what time frame was this?
2008.
Really? Okay. 2008 is when my daughter was born, so to me that feels very recent. But she's driving around
I was
now,
going to say,
so
it's
it's
been
not
16 years.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Wow. So 2008, and I see so many of us work here. Very few of us actually know. I think that part of the story. I mean, I knew there was a merger. I knew Aspen merged. I knew that happened, but I didn't know how it happened. Just knew that it did. But apparently, it was on the brink of not happening.
Correct.
Wow.
And neither company had to, but it just made sense. I mean, we got staff and copiers and this, and and neither one of the buildings were full, and it kind of made sense. But the cultures appeared to be so different that was one of the challenging parts. And then, I'd never been involved with buying a real estate company or anything. It was a great experience. But again, you had a lot of smart people sitting around there, and I'm going to tell you that the calmest person in the entire room was Daryl Davis. There's other people that would get, and Daryl just was like, "Settle down. We can." And then once we got back to the table, it went really pretty smoothly.
I've done one deal with Daryl, and he was cool as a cucumber the entire. And it was a deal where he had the listing, I had the buyer. Active termites, mold, high radon. I mean, everything was bad about this house. His sellers agreed to fix everything. My buyer was ready to flake out, and Daryl probably doesn't even remember this because it's been years. And Daryl just, called me just nice and calm, like, "Yeah, okay, well, I mean, they'll probably get an attorney then if your people want to." It's just like, it's not.
He is always like this.
And I was like, "Daryl, I'm with you, man. I understand. You guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm going to work on anyhow." They bought the house. They're still there. They're happy. But, yeah. So, yeah, but I remember that's my one dealing with Daryl Davis. He was just, super laid back the whole time.
Well, and when you got those kind of people, and again, Jake Clark, they're just smart business people.
Yeah.
And I learned so much going through that process. But everybody sits back, and Daryl was just the best example because he listens so well. And then he stays calm, and he's like, "Okay, I hear what you're saying, but da-da-da-da-da." And, once we got over and came over, and then it was, our agents over there, as soon as we announced it and everything, then they're over here. We got sticky notes on offices. I want to be, and then the nonsense starts, and I'm like, "Okay, well, you can't be, but we can do it." And it came together, and it was phenomenal, and it's been good ever since.
Okay, so that was 2008. I first talked to you at the end of 2013. I officially started at the very beginning of 2014. But, I've told the story how my agent was Linda Nelson before I got into the business. And she was also very instrumental into getting me to just come talk to you. But she emailed me over the graph that had the real estate group sales and then everybody else's. So I guess I never realized before that was a very short time frame of the merger in 2008 to becoming number one in sales here. So when did the real estate group become the leading producer in this area? Because that must have happened pretty quick.
Probably a year or two after the merger, when you combine those. Yeah, it was. I mean, the real estate group was a strong company. They had really, really strong producers. And Aspen, we had some good producers, but we also had a bunch of newer agents. And once once it started hitting on all cylinders, we just kind of blew up. Plus, we attracted some more people, and the recruiting was a little more active back then because there were more agents at different places, and there was other. Coldwell Banker was still here, and Remax, and you were always talking back and forth with agents, and so we added some more people because it came more attractive from some of the compensation stuff. So once we kind of took off, it just never stopped. But I think, and I've got that stuff I got some graphs and stuff that show when that changed.
Yeah,
once we took off, it just hasn't stopped.
Yeah, we haven't looked back. I mean,
sometimes over the years, people got frustrated with me a little bit because I'm not a great promoter of. I don't run around and blow the horn and say, look how much business we're doing. I will talk a lot about how many units we do.
Sure.
Which, by the way, we'll close close to 4,900 units in 2024.
Solid.
But what's that tell you? People trust us.
Yeah.
The consumers trust us.
It makes sense. I'm happy to contribute to that. But hearing 4,900 units and then seeing my sales, and I'm like, I'm having a good year. I'm like, man, that's a small fraction of what we're doing at this company.
I'm going to say this, and I don't normally say this, but I'm going to say it because it's kind of a big deal. But about 3 or 4 days ago, we crossed the $1 billion mark.
Really?
So we've closed over $1 billion in sales in 2024.
And that's a first.
First ever.
Oh.
And that's all the markets, so MLS doesn't reflect that, but all the markets internally. For a small independent company in the middle of Central Illinois, where your average sale price is $220 or $230, that's why you do 4,900 units.
How much longer are we going to get to call ourselves a small independent company?
As long as I'm here. Yeah, I mean, you just got a bunch of, and I say this with great respect and love, but you got a bunch of yahoos sitting around that just kind of make some decisions and do some things and learn from each other, and it's worked really, really well.
So where all do we have offices now?
The major markets, we have an office in Champaign,
Mm-hmm.
we have an office in Pekin, we have an office in Jacksonville. And then we've got some smaller satellite agent offices, one in Fisher, Illinois. We got one in Nokomis now. We've got 8 altogether. So then, as far as out Taylorville, we've got an office.
Yeah. Okay. So. Expanding. Doing pretty good.
It's the name, and it's kind of nice because people in Champaign know who the real estate group is. People in Pekin and bleeding into Peoria know who the real estate group is. And over here, obviously, people know who we are.
So then, with this kind of growth and expansion, and all of the the agent number increasing, how do we make sure that people are getting the proper training to go out there? Because, like you said, people trust us. Mm-hmm. Our numbers show it. How do we ensure that people continue to trust us, and how do we make sure that the agents that are out there working, sticking our blue and white signs in the ground are doing the kind of job that we need them to do to keep things moving this direction?
Yep. That is it's a more of a challenging question than it used to be. Again, I go back when I started. If you started Julie's, you went through the training,
right?
Or you didn't stay there. There's also a lot more mandatory rules back in the day than there are today. But you used to go to work every day because there were no cell phones. I was pre-fax machine. I mean,
you're hand delivering.
We stood around that magic machine that printed out this magic piece of paper. It was fascinating. But we went and saw people all the time. Today it's a different world because even getting people in the office is more challenging. And the team structure, there's some teams that would like Mike and I to do more training with their agents, but a lot of them do their own internal training, so they don't want us to kind of cross-reference. It's something we constantly work on. In the Champaign market, we've got a mentor, kind of like Pat Zellinger used to do.
Well, I want to talk about Pat coming up here too, but go ahead, sorry.
Pekin, Darcy's handling that over there, so she's handling the new agents. Mike and I are working on things here, and we've got a little bit of a plan that will be phenomenal if we can pull it off for the new agents.
Really?
Yes.
And you can tell me about that when we quit recording?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good deal, because I want to hear about that.
It will be, if we can get to an agreement we need to get to, it'll be a really, really big thing. Okay.
Good. And when I had Julie in here, we talked about it, the topic of training the agents, I talked about it with Mike O too. To me, it's really important. Also, I know after I got licensed, I wanted to absorb as much as I could. I was in here all the time, every day, and that was. I remember you saying, "Hey, let's hold off until the first of the year because we're bringing in a guy to work with new agents, and I think you guys will get along great." And that was Pat Sellinger.
Right.
Pat was awesome. I mean, there's no way that I would be able to be doing what I am right now if Pat wasn't here. I mean, unless
I agree.
Unless I would have been bothering you like crazy.
And it was just the time, having the availability of time. Again, I loved doing that with the new agents. There just wasn't enough time. And Pat was the right guy at the right time. And he's just such a good guy.
Yeah.
And he understood the business, and nobody cared more than him.
True.
So he was the right guy, and it fit really well.
And he knew, to me, something that drives me crazy is when people in this industry don't know what the contracts say. They're big, long contracts, and it doesn't read like a fantasy novel. Right? So, but you have to know what's on the contract. You have to know, I shouldn't be teaching anyone who's in this industry what's we should all know. Pat was a stickler for that state. He knew, hey, this is what this says. And so right off the bat, I'm learning, what you can and can't do, what you have agreed to, and that was such a big part. And that's something that I still pride myself on, is knowing the ins and outs of the contracts. But so how did the talks with Pat, I guess, begin? How did you learn about Pat and know that he would be good for this?
Well, first off, Pat and I are kind of related.
Are you?
So his uncle was married to my cousin.
Pat kind of related to everybody a little bit.
The Sellingers were a big North End family, the Buschers, the Alios, all, and so they married into each other, and so we're all...
Hey!
Yeah. Uncle Larry Sellinger was never my uncle, but that's what we called him forever.
Okay.
And so I've known that family forever and ever. And then when Pat came back from Florida, and he was working at another company and doing a great job over there, and we were looking for something, and I had an opportunity to talk to him and say, look, it may be an opportunity for something different. And luck, timing, all went into play. And, we had a couple of conversations, and then he decided to make that move.
Yeah.
And it was great for us, and I think it was good for him.
Yeah, I think it was too. He's such a perfect guy for that role. And I've talked to him a few times, and he's agreed. He's gonna sit down
with
one
you?
of these with me. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. He's gonna do it when he's not in Chicago now with his new job. He's always in Chicago.
I invited him to Chris's lunch yesterday.
Yeah.
And he was going to try to come by. I was hoping he would, because people love seeing him.
Oh man, he knew everybody. It's right off the bat. I remember every day I spent with him before I even did anything, and he's taking me around. He's introducing me to lenders in town. He took me to the title company. I didn't know what a title company was.
Correct. I
was a licensed real estate agent, and he's like, let's go talk to the title company. And I'm like, what's that?
Right. The business is developing. I don't want to make any excuses here, but when we used to teach classes, Julie's and Coldwell Banker, and I had my or pre-license instructor license for a while, but we'd have 30, 35 people in class, and we'd teach 3 classes a year. So you got 70, 80 people, and you'd get 20% of them that got in the real estate business. Other people just weren't there. But we would be bringing agents in 8, 9, 10, 12 at a time.
Right.
Well, then you can do classes, and you can have some structure and stuff like that. Now, we get a handful of agents over the course of a year, 3, 4, 5. It's almost too big of a challenge to say, okay, we're going to have these classes. We've got it written. We've had them for years, but there's just nobody to take them.
Yeah.
Structurally.
And I mean, that makes sense. It's not like it was. But what we do have is the Wednesday coffee and questions, which it's such a great thing that we do for new agents and experienced agents. Because we can all keep learning. We can all stand to be in the same room and pick the brains of other agents that do this and talk about our experiences and what we've learned. to me, I've found these super helpful, and I'm 11 years in. I've got a decent handle on how these things go, but it's super helpful to have that. So I love, and I'm always trying to encourage people to come be a part of that and sit in there. It's an hour, and so.
One of my favorite things training wise, and with the lead team and the things that we've done, and because I'll get them in the room and I say, okay, then today we're going to do some role playing.
Yeah, I hate that.
That everybody hates it. That's why we lock the doors, because otherwise everybody's got doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And
I hate
do it in a very friendly environment. But it's fun for me because
you like to make people squirm.
Right. But I've always said, if you can handle it here, there's nobody outside these doors that'll scare you, because you're with your peers. You can't fake it because they know.
Let me tell you what it is when you do that. Okay, and why because we all know that you have whatever answer you're looking for there in your brain. Mm-hmm. Whatever we're supposed to say, we know that you have that in your brain, and we are terrified because we know whatever we say is probably not going to align with whatever you think we should have said, and we don't want to be wrong. Not that, it's we've had thousands of conversations with strangers and answered all the questions you can possibly answer. But for whatever reason, when we're in a room with other realtors and you're saying, okay, let's do a little role playing. Hi, why do you blah, blah, blah this? We know that whatever we say, you're going to be like, eh.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
Well, again, I worked with Julie Davis. She was a national instructor. See, she doesn't tell you half the stuff that she's done. But
I need to sit down with her 3 or 4 more times. I know that was just...
She's been on stage at national conventions. She's taught national franchise. She's done lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, when I got my CRB designation, I traveled. So I went to Orlando. Took Misty and Anthony, so they're running around the park while I'm in class. Well, when I go and sign up, they're like, Julie Davis. Well, the instructors all know Julie. So I'm still about 2 years in the business, okay, fairly new. I'm in Orlando with about 200 realtors, and these are some heavy-hitting people from Florida.
Sure.
And they're going to do a role play up on stage. Well, since this instructor knows Julie, he goes, Mike, you come up.
Oh.
And no, I mean, so I get up there and I sit down, and then there's this other really, really experienced agent, and we're going to do this cold call. So he says, one of you be the agent and the other the client. And the experienced guy's like, I'll be the client.
Oh.
And I'm sitting in front of these people, and they go, okay, ring, ring. And finally goes, Mike, you got to answer the phone. And I'm like, I'm crying, I'm sweating. So you guys are getting paid back for what Julie did to me.
Like, hi, this is Mike Buscher. I'm sorry.
I used to be in the real estate business, but I'm out now. So it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done.
I bet. Yeah, I would have. That would have been it for me.
And I came back and I said to Julie, "Stop it." She goes, "I didn't do anything."
Well, I wish there were video of that. I would have liked to have seen that.
It was terrifying. So I understand, appreciate that, but it also, what happened after that? People came and talked to me, and I didn't do a very good job. But the fact that I was up there, and I learned, and Julie said, she reiterated that if you can do it there, there's nothing in the real world that'll scare you, because they don't know all the answers. So that part of it, there's a method to it, and you understand that there is. I want you to go somewhere, and you're not going to use my words, but if you can get your words to sound that, then it makes sense to me. And if you can get over the fear of everybody in that room, and you're all on the same side, it's all of you against me anyway, so it's okay.
It really is.
But once you walk out the door, there's nobody in the real world that will intimidate you.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. So thank you. I'll keep showing up to these things and reluctantly role play if I have to. Now, you mentioned your wife.
Yes.
So what is it like being just having like a stay-at-home wife who doesn't really do much? Is it?
I don't know. Some days I wish I did.
Your wife is the mayor.
Yes.
Of Springfield.
Yes.
I asked people, what questions do you want me to ask Mike Buscher? And the only person who responded was Kim Elliott, who said, ask him what it's like to be Mr. Misty.
Oh, God, for God's sake.
LOL.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, it's interesting in this podcast because I tell people a lot. I used to be somebody.
Not now.
Now I am referred to. I've got a T-shirt. Her parents heard that, so they made T-shirts for me that say Mr. Misty. And
that's great.
there's a picture of. Have you ever seen the picture?
No,
I'll show you.
I want
afterwards.
to.
Yeah, I've got it on. There's a Mr. Misty, a Dairy Queen guy, and blah blah blah. It's fascinating to me to be, kind of in the loop of what goes on. And it's taken me a long time. I've spent 32 years managing real estate agents. My job is to solve problems.
Yeah.
And now, my wife becomes the mayor, and she would just come home, and we're talking about stuff. And my initial reaction, and I did this a lot, she starts talking, and I start problem solving.
Uh-huh.
And then it's through my head, and my brain talks and my mouth doesn't listen because it's like shut up, and then I've gotten much better at that. Because she's smarter than I am, and trust me, I've learned that. And she doesn't need me. I mean, blah blah blah, bounce things off. But it's interesting to see how she manages things, and government is a completely different world than business. She used to be a lender for 25 years.
Yeah, I knew that.
We didn't have conversations when we went home. Because she would come home and go, your agents are so... Mm-hmm. And I go, well, if you'd lend them the money, we wouldn't have these conversations. and it was just too common, so we really didn't get into a lot. Once she got even elected to the treasurer's office, it's fascinating to me to listen to her talk about what happens and how and why and all these kind of things. And now it's just on steroids as being the mayor.
Oh, I'm sure.
So.
I'm sure. You mentioned your wife's smarter than you. I can relate. It's amazing how many times I'll be talking about whatever deal I have going on, and this person did this and said that, and my wife will just be like, well, why don't you just blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I do this every day of my life. How did you just solve this in 3 seconds with something I didn't even think about? Why don't you just say, it's just...
I get it.
Am I a fraud? Maybe I'm a fraud.
You're a good team.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, a fantastic team.
But she comes home and she's like, "Here's and this is what I did," and I'm like, "How I would have never thought of that." And she just.
What possessed her to want that position? And were you ever like, "Hey, are you sure?"
Oh, we had many conversations.
Okay.
She'd been in the lending business long enough,
right?
And she was looking for something different, and then that treasurer opportunity came up, which she loved. It's a numbers, she was really good at it. She understood that, and she was really content. You can do 3 terms. She did 2. She was going to do the 3rd one, and that would kind of be her run. She never wanted to be in politics. She still doesn't want to be in politics. There was things that she saw internally going on at the city that she just thought could be better, and so she labored over this decision. Because when she ran, she's out of a job if she doesn't get elected. And that's, we'll survive and go on from there. But it was also the challenge. Nobody likes to lose. And even though she said it'd be okay, it wasn't.
It wasn't, yeah.
And so once we had many conversations about, are you sure? Because it's a lot. And when she said, yeah, then we said, okay, let's go do it. And I've never seen anybody work harder than she did to get that job. She knocked on... When she gets stressed, like during campaigns, she loves to go knock on doors.
Really?
We're the opposite. I don't want to knock on anybody's door.
Knocking on doors.
And even now, I have to go with her, and I go and I hand stuff. I don't want to... But she loves it. But she loves talking to people, and she loves blah, 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 blah. And so that would bring her back down. I thought, well, if that's how you get to feel better is knocking on doors, that's a pretty good sign. And then, once she got in, got elected, the election night was the most stressful night of my life.
Really?
Period. Yeah. You just work so hard. And the election was really close, and there's people in the back room that are, they know precincts, and they're doing stuff. And I'm back there, and she never went back there. And then she's on the floor, and we had a whole bunch of people there. And I'd come out of the back room, and she would look at me, and I'd look away because I can't. And she's terrified. I'm terrified. And
at that point, there's nothing you can do. The work's been done. All you got to do is wait.
The guys in the back, 2 of them, they're 2 guys, 2 gals, and they looked at me and they said, Mike, it's just, they said she's going to win. I go, I'm not telling her that. Because I can't be wrong on this one. And he goes, no, I'm telling you. With the precincts still out and stuff, I said, okay. And I walk out, and I would look away from her. Well, then I went and talked to my daughter, who's there. Well, then Misty freaks out because I'm talking to Courtney. She assumes it's not good news, and I'm like, and one of the gals said, it was close to the end, and she said the previous mayor has conceded. And I said, who told you that? She goes, a friend of mine. I go, don't you tell me about your friend.
Mm-mm.
You tell me something that's... And so a few minutes later, she came up, and there was a report from Newscat, Channel 20 or somebody. She goes, Mike. And I took this poor gal's phone. She's a great gal. I took her phone ran. I ran away from her because I went to find Misty. And I'm like, look. And it was, I've never been that stressed. And it was fun.
That's cool.
It was very fun.
That's cool. So rewarding, no regrets. She's, this is the good spot for her.
Hey, she loves the job.
Good.
She loves the challenge. She loves doing that. She doesn't love the politics
of it.
Right.
Of
And that's probably, unfortunately, about 60% of it is just playing the game.
Yeah, no, you know what I don't like? Paperwork. You know what I love? Showing houses.
Yep.
Guess what I get to do more of?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you mentioned your daughter, and you brought up Anthony earlier.
Yes.
So did Anthony come to you and say, I want to get into real estate? Or were you saying, hey, have you thought about real estate? No. How did that go?
Anthony hated real estate. Hated. Now, again, I'm a single dad.
Right.
Well, do you know what you do when you're showing houses as a single dad?
Bring
More times
kid?
than not. Yeah. He would go with me, and, he's 6, 7, 8 years old. And I'm like, hey, bud, we just got to... it's one showing. It won't, and he's like, well, every time. Then it's like,
this is before tablets and stuff too.
Correct. Yeah. And we'd go out there, and then of course the people want to write an offer, and I'm like, all right, McDonald's for night. He actually had a desk at Julie's office because they had cubicles, and I had my cubicle, and then next to me was an empty one, so that was his desk. But he hated it. So he went to school and went to college, went to Florida, and computer animation and all that stuff, and he's got an art degree, and then he's a computer animation degree, but in order to actually work in that field, he would have had to stay in Florida or go to California.
Okay.
Really. And he wanted to come back home. I mean, all his buddies were here and everybody was here. So he came back, and he was working construction and doing stuff and running around with his buddies. And one day we went and had lunch, and it was like that, son,
about time.
To figure out, you need to grow up a little bit. And we were sitting there, and he said, okay, Dad, he says, you're not going to believe this. He goes, but I think I might want to try real estate. And I was shocked. And I said, okay, if that's what you want to do. And Anthony, bless his heart, he's a smart kid. And he was smarter than everybody in the real estate business, because I said, there's a way to do this. And he goes, well, I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, all right, you try. And it was almost, 11, 12 months. And he came back to me and he goes, you're right. There's a process. Okay. And he figured it out, and he's been off to the races since.
Yeah. And so now he and his wife both, doing this together. And I've talked to them. They are both going to come on together.
Are they really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, sometime in January.
Good.
I think we're going to get both of them on together, so that'll be fun. But
okay, I'll tell you the questions you can't ask Crystal.
Okay.
But Crystal was here before Anthony.
Yeah, okay.
She was here working before he ever came in the business.
Really?
So she's the experienced side of that duo.
At this point, they're both pretty experienced, I would say, right? But
she's going to tell you, though. I'll tell you what she's going to tell you. She's going to tell you that I didn't hire her the first time I interviewed her.
Really?
Which is true.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And she'll never let me forget.
I'll save that story. I'll let her tell that story. I'll call that a teaser.
Yes.
That's pretty funny. So my oldest son is studying right now to get his license. I'm excited.
You should be.
Yeah.
One of the things that the benefit is, you go back to your family history. You worked with your dad and your grandpa all the time. And for a parent, that's a cool thing. Anthony and I have a relationship that, even though he's busy and he's going and, they got the kids and blah, 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 but there's always that real estate tie. And, there's out of the 250 agents here, there's 2 of them that have a key to walk in my house. And when there's a problem, they can't find me. Sometimes they walk in and it's like blah, blah, blah. But to have that whole another level of relationship, talking about business, teaching them about business, and watching them grow and prosper, it's unbelievable.
He is so just like fascinated by how this works. Every day he's asking me questions. What's this? What's it? And like, how's that go? And what do you do when this? Like, and I spent zero time with anybody actually working the job other than being shown houses before I got licensed.
Sure.
So coming in, I already know, like, okay, his understanding of what this is going to be like is way better than mine was. He's coming in at a younger age. He doesn't have a family to support or a mortgage to pay. So I can really help him become a good, I think, agent. I'm excited, man.
Well, and the age difference, he understands some of the technology, some of the communication methods, and those kids communicate differently than you do, and I communicate even differently than that, some of the technology and stuff. And it's fun to watch them, and they come in with a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
And it's easier for him to bounce things off you and talk to you and discuss and disagree with you than it would be for him to do it with me or Mike. You know what I mean? Because if he comes in my office, he's going to be like, well, but for you, you can actually have those conversations. And he can say, Dad, I don't know why you're doing this. And you can go, well, here's why. And he goes, they think there's a better way. And it's your job to say, okay,
try it.
And then come back to me and we'll work through it. But you look at Josh and Cindy and Jay Clark and his dad. I mean, the success, again, it goes back to every business out there. If your family wasn't so longevity in the business and stuff, you might have done something different because you can go up there. And the real estate business is an opportunity. The return on investment for what it costs to get in this business versus any other professional business, not even close. For the amount of money that you can make. I never went to college. I have no college degree.
Yeah.
My wife
went straight to work.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a great lesson in working hard. And I think it's exciting. I love seeing that next generation of people coming in, especially family-wise.
Me too. And I like how it's become something that young people, and I talk about this with everybody, is it wasn't a thing growing up, and nobody wanted to grow up and be a realtor. It's kind of like your story, like, why don't you try real estate? Okay, but now they want to get into this industry, and they're getting in young.
Very young.
And I'm thinking, man, if I would have started 10 years earlier, where could I be now? But all that aside, so we still got some time, buddy.
Okay.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. You got into management pretty early.
Yes.
Is there ever a time where you're like, I wish I was just selling real estate and not in the management part of it? Because I feel like, and I know when Mike came on, that helped you quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I know before, and even now, I'll still bother you.
Yeah, that's not a
If there was something going sideways, your phone's ringing, and it's me saying, hey, Mike, this is what's going on. And I'm not the only agent here. Mm-hmm. So in management, everybody's problems kind of become your problems, and only the ones that we can't solve on our own, which means that they are the most difficult ones. So are you ever like, I just wish I was just going out on listing appointments and showing houses and only have those stressors?
Over the years, you always think, is there a different way? And the reality of it is, and Julie told me this a long time ago, you could make more money selling than you can managing and stuff like that. And again, it's been a good career for me. I have no complaints. When I was selling, I sold for about 3 years. But I liked the challenging deals. The easy ones were great, and every once in a while you get a cash deal, and it's like great. But if every deal I had was an easy deal, I would be bored.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that I remember the most were ones that you just had to fight, and we went from lender to lender, and we did things, and those were the most rewarding to me because there was a challenge and we beat it. So the fact that I liked the challenging deals led right into the management side of it because that's all I ever deal with. And the agents, which I love them all dearly, but they are masters of coming in and they say, okay, Mike, here's this issue. We got this, blah, blah, blah. And I've done it long enough that I don't have a whole lot of new ideas. But, you and I will sit and solve a problem, and then Ketke walks in, and it's like, okay, we'll try this because it's very similar to what we just did. And everybody thinks I'm really smart, but you came up with the answer, and I'm just taking credit for it because she doesn't know. But, you put all that together, and they come in and they say, here's the issue. Then you go solve it. Well, nobody ever comes back and says, hey, Mike, we closed. It's like, so I'll pass in the hallway. I go, hey, whatever. Oh, yeah, it's closed. It's been gone. Yeah. Okay. Nobody ever comes back and says, hey, it worked, or we did anything. So I just wait for the next one. But I
I'll
don't
try to remember next time.
It's okay. I thrive on fixing that issue. And if there's a way to fix it, we fix it and go from there. And so that's what's kept me in it. And teaching and training, again, you've done enough coaching and stuff like that. I coached grade school basketball, I coached high school basketball, and I had more fun just working with kids and doing that. And this is a lot of the same thing. I get to deal with and teach and say, okay, what about this? And the one thing, when somebody walks in the office, what you get from me is questions. First, who's on the other side? Are you by
That
yourself?
is always the first question. Who's on the other side?
Because it matters.
It does.
Knowing who your personalities are and how you approach it and stuff like that. And there's people, if it's so-and-so, especially in-house, it's like, you know what? You can approach that differently than if it's so-and-so in-house that's a little more by the book or by the letter and stuff like that. And so you lay all that stuff out, but the questions help, because most of the time, I'll say about half the time, I do this, and whether you can see me, I'm just shaking my head. Because you're like, look, here's the problem, and here's what I think, and all I'm doing is reaffirming that you're on the right track, or you got the answer.
Sometimes that's what we need.
Correct.
Here's what I'm thinking. Is this the right thing?
Correct. Or then we tweak it just a hair or whatever.
Yeah.
So but I always try to do that, too, to get the agents to say, here's what I think, or here's why, or whatever, versus here, you fix this.
And then you say, yeah, that's the right thing to do. And then I go home and check with my wife to make sure.
Yeah, and she probably calls Misty, and then those two figure it out, and you and I you go to a closing.
Something I say to everybody, and it's such a real thing, is because you mentioned the easy ones, because there are some.
Sure.
Just nice and smooth. But if they were all easy, we wouldn't have jobs.
Right.
I mean, there would be no real estate agents if everything was, hey, here's the offer. Great, I'll take it. You going to do an inspection? Nope.
Yep.
Tell me where to sign. Okay. Everybody shake hands. Here's your keys. See you later. There would be no need for us.
Correct.
And so as much as it can be a struggle, we have to appreciate the difficulties that arise, because that's what people hire us for. This day and age, everybody has access to the internet. Everybody has a high quality camera that they carry around in their pocket at all times. Anybody can take some pictures and put a little paragraph online. Anybody can do that. That's easy. We get paid for everything after that, the hard stuff. And so I don't complain. When things get hard, I don't complain. And this is why I have a job.
Right. Well, you're a psychologist. You're a therapist. I was talking to Megan Presnell. She just sold a house and moved. And she came in to talk to me. She goes, this is unbelievable. She lost business because she had to pack and move. She said, I have too much stuff and blah, blah, blah. And, I think real estate agents ought to have to move about every 5 years just to remember what it's like.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Now, I'm not, but that's, in understanding that, because it's the emotional things that happen to people, the frustration of, getting the house ready every day. And again, the market's been different. But when you got a house on the market for a month or 2 months now and stuff, and it's got to be ready. And, even me and Misty, that house isn't show ready every day, let alone if you got kids and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you got to gauge the people's up and down, and, the last minute, and they're frustrated and they're mad, and I'm not going to closing, and I'm doing this. And that's what we get paid to do.
Yes.
And I calm you down. I pat you on the back. I give you a hug, whatever the case may be. And there's been people over the years when you went to closing that just think you're the greatest thing ever. They want pictures, and they invite you to their house, and they do things. And that's what, I always compare it to golf. I'm not a very good golfer, but every time I do golf, I'll get one shot that's just like, wow.
Keeps you coming back.
I can keep coming back. And for me, in the real estate side of it, when somebody would be so happy because you changed the direction of their life.
Yes.
And That's a big deal. And that's that golf shot that says, okay, I can keep doing this because of that. And I think if you ask most agents, some of the most memorable transactions aren't the biggest, not the most money. It's the ones where you really made a difference.
And those are the ones I've found that, I try to maintain relationships with all my clients. And it's hard when you start getting up into the hundreds and then, the thousands of it, which I'm not there yet, but eventually I'll keep at this long enough. It's hard to maintain those connections. But what I found is the ones where it was the most maybe difficult or there were the most hurdles that need cleared, I seem to maintain closer relationships with those people because that experience brings you when you're in the trenches fighting for them and making, those are the ones who keep reaching out to you who, hey, this agent did this, and this to help me, get my house sold or to help me get into this new house. And those are the ones that send you the most referrals and appreciate you the most when it's, some of them, if you go in, it's, well, that was easy. And it's like, yeah, it was. I'll just take that check and
and you need those to keep your sanity. But
yes.
It's interesting to me because it's almost the spectrums of those first-time buyers because there's just a lot of learning and maybe some financial things that they got to figure out. And then some of the older ones. And years ago, my uncle, he was in his 80s, still going at 97, but he wanted to sell his house and he was getting... So we got his house on the market and sold a nice little house over on 23rd Street and did well. And then he called me and he goes, now he's got 7 kids. But he called me and says, Mike, I can't do this. I'm like, okay, well, tell me what's going on. So I went, he goes, I can't. He says, I can't pack all this. I can't lift it up. Well, he's 80-some years old.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. Because his kids are like, and they moved him. But in his mind, he couldn't do what he did when he was 50 or 60. And so he panicked. And so then, but you go from one extreme to the other. And then there's always some in the middle. But it's like, okay, it's going to be okay. And here's the plan. Then I called his daughter, and she's like, oh, we got it. To think, again, we got this big family. We could have half a day with everybody. And
right.
We would have moved and went from there. But you've seen it over and over again, especially people who have been in the house for a long time and they're a little bit older and they don't understand that being out of closing means being out of closing. I've carried stuff on moving truck. We do all those things. And the general public never really gets to see that.
No.
But that's the part that is sometimes you want to beat your head against the wall saying, look, I've told you 10 times. But it's also you carry the last box out and put it in the truck and go from there and say, okay, now we can go to closing. And you go home when it's okay.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I'll let you get out of here. Okay. But how important was it? How helpful has it been to have Mike Nettle join us?
It's
here?
just a game changer.
Like
for
invaluable,
us.
right?
Invaluable. And that was Mike and I were not colleagues, but we were competitors. He was managing another large real estate company. Mike did a lot for me, even when he was in Jacksonville at the state level and things like that. He pushed me some, because they called me one time and he said, Buscher, he said, you need to get on the Real Estate Education Foundation board. We needed a board of directors guy. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, Mike. He goes, okay. But then I went and checked it out. Well, I got on the board. I was on the board. Then I became president of that and all this stuff and got me really involved at the state level and things like that. So him and I were friends and colleagues. But when you had the 2 biggest real estate companies, when there was a problem,
you're also competitors.
Him and I he'd call me and I'd call him, and it's like, okay, and blah, blah, blah. And if you know Mike, he's a scrapper, as am I.
Not an enviable position for either of you. I would not want.
Very respectful, but I'll tell you what, we went to the mat for our agents, and he won more than I did, unfortunately, but blah, blah. Probably the hardest phone call I ever made was calling him saying, hey, you got time to have lunch with me?
That was a hard phone call?
Unbelievably hard. I'm calling a guy who his resume is off the chart.
Yes.
And I'm calling him kind of saying, let's go talk about maybe doing something different to the biggest competitor we had. And so luckily he accepted that lunch. And, then that was like that first date dance. I'm like, And, and we just talked a lot that day about what we think could happen
right
going forward if we kind of teamed up. And then I'll never forget the day he walked in. I was waiting for him up at the front desk, and he came in, and he had his briefcase and stuff like that, and just the look on his face, which I could imagine going to the office that the other side, and he knows what I've told him,
right,
but doesn't know that that's all the same. And I was a little concerned, I think, as he was, about how our relationship was going to be, because I've been running this show, he's been running that show, and from day one it's been unbelievable.
Yeah,
there's no hierarchy. There is no, hey, this is my job, your job. And he and I've gotten a lot better lately of asking the question, have you talked to Mike? Because people will call me, again, if you don't get the answer you want from me, then you call him.
Right. I call you both.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten better saying, have you talked to Mike? Oh, well, yeah, but he said. I go, okay, I'm not going to be mom and he's dad in that scenario. So, but it's been, his contacts, his vision, his knowledge is and it just takes the pressure off, because you can and should. And a lot of times you get whoever answers the phone first, whether it's him or me.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. And he's the managing broker, designated managing broker of Springfield. I tell everybody, and at Coker, I had a conversation with her, and I have one question. Do you ever feel bad never calling her Ashley? Because sometimes I think I should call her Ashley.
I didn't know her name was Ashley.
Yeah. But she goes, I'm sorry to bother you. But I go, no. I've been with you guys from day one. I want you to reach out and talk to me, not to step on. And he doesn't care, because most of the time we're really, really close to the same answer. Might have a different approach how to get there, but the answer is the same. And if it's the rules, it's the rules, and we go from there. It's been unbelievable, and it's really created some opportunities for us.
That's what I was going to lead into it. There's no way, because right now with the growth that we're having in all these other areas, and that's kind of what you've been taking on.
Right.
There's no way you could be out doing that, and then also just being the only managing broker here for all of these agents in Springfield when we have a lot.
Right.
And a lot of agents, a lot of transactions also means a lot of issues that need tended to.
Right.
So,
and I know you've talked about a team and adding there's a point in time where if you're doing more business than you can handle, it's the plate spinning scenario. Mm-hmm. Somebody's not going to get the service they need. So when you get to that point, you have to have somebody to help you fill that in. Same thing here. There's a point in time where the agents, we couldn't grow anymore because the quality of management support wouldn't have been there. And with him, sky's the limit at this point in time.
Yeah, no joke. All right. Hey, this has been great.
No, I appreciate it. It's fun.
I've been looking forward to this one, and I think you're not going to beat Ketke. That episode has got more plays than anything, but you'll probably be a close second. Okay. I would imagine.
What was the name of this show?
Ask her. Real estate superstars.
Yes. Eric Pettigo superstar or something like that. Awesome, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mike, thank you. I appreciate it.